Coming out swinging for Volume 2, we have quite the lineup of heavy hitters with a batting average of 300, so get your peanuts and Cracker Jacks and don't forget to wait your turn for the wave. When the subscription cam pans to you, also make sure you valiantly partake because after all eyes are on you. Make yourself known with a like or comment, and when I'm up to bat, I'll point to your section of the audience when I'm about to Babe Ruth a ball in your direction. Now that we've established that I love subscriptions, we can get on to the main reason we're here and start this inning off with a banger. Play ball! The most recent and interesting release on my list today showed up on December 12th of 2024 and was developed and published by Game Science with Hero Games as a co-publisher. This action RPG harkens from the Chinese Ming Dynasty story Journey to the West and basically expands on the tale. It's not the first time we were introduced to this world because, surprise surprise, we had another game covering this story with a different protagonist named Sun Wukong on PS4 called Monkey King: Hero is Back. Of the two games, the one we are talking about today is definitely the more ambitious of the two, and you play as a different character called the Destined One, who is destined to replace the role of Sun Wukong. It has gained a controversial nature because some say it is rooted in Chinese propaganda, but I say, who cares if the game accomplishes its mission of entertainment? What stands out to me immediately are the beautifully done graphics and environment. If there are Souls fans in the house, you will also get a taste of that world within the gameplay. If you want a little journey into Chinese mythology, join me for a brief review. I'll be upfront, there's no progress lost when you die, so don't expect the brutality of a true Souls-like experience. I think I was silently thanking the game developer for that, and maybe outright thanking them for the spiritual 54 shape-shifting mechanics that could be accumulated along the 50 to 80 hour journey. That's not to mention the upgrades and buffables that prove to almost be overwhelming. I wish someone would have told me I didn't need to modify every flippin' thing to complete the game, but that's what I get for my stubborn sense of independent accomplishment. It doesn't help that this gorgeous world feels a bit linear when a path to a blatantly looking open mural is nothing but a wall that no amount of navigation can get you through. I guess where it lacks in exploration, it does make up in boss encounters, which are heavy to the story and so satisfying to vanquish. I'm going to go out on a limb figuratively since I can't in-game, and say this was a good but sometimes frustrating selection that is fun to watch but not a high recommendation to own. I'll settle at a 7 score out of 10 here with a disclaimer that it's not for everyone. On September 15th, 2023, publishers Team 17 and Selectavision brought us a title developed by the Game Kitchen that may or may not have disappointed Yahweh in some fashion, but had the opposite effect on me. It's a side-scrolling Metroidvania-style sequel that feels like an elevated 16-bit pixelated experience. I, for one, really enjoyed the first installment, but this one exceeded my expectations in almost every category. The barbed wire Conehead is back to continue the Free Wounds of Eventide DLC from the original game in a world less linear and fully upgradable. Let's unlock the scroll of review and address this enthralling sequel. As Sean Connery once said, "Only the penitent man will pass, and you'll be doing plenty of dodging and kneeling before God to do so." I've always loved the diversity in these games when it comes to enemy attacks. Once you learn how to refine your fighting style based on the foes you encounter, it proves to be a sense of accomplishment. Kind of like a Holy Spirit that takes you over and gives you the Holy Goose pimples. This might be because of how much emphasis is put into the fluidity of striking, dodging, and parrying compared to the first title. As Aladdin would put it, it's a whole new world, and the visual stimulation is sinful to complement the dance of depredation you partake in. I have to say, I liked the first one, but I'm a little infatuated with playing this one. So much so that I'm willing to blaspheme frequently with a side of carnal intemperance. 8 out of 10. This Japanese version of this 2.5D side-scrolling action-adventure Metroidvania platformer was released July 17th of 2024. It was developed by indie company Squid Shock Studios and published by Humble and also Rare Drop Games on consoles. Right out of the Torii, that's a Japanese gate, I saw some strong Nine Souls art influence, which also should be released sometime this year on Switch. Maybe even some Hollow Knight resemblance, and that was immediately compelling and sparked my curiosity because of this one's availability now. There is so much to love here in this game, and also so much to be equally frustrated with, but the balance between the two becomes neutrally engrossing. Let's strike up a review in true Japanese fashion. The hit-or-miss humor, the distinct navigation mechanics, or the occasional difficulty spikes really tend to put a dampener on the overall impression, but oddly enough, these are the things that also make it good. It almost builds to a dance-like progression that begs for the proper choreography. The bosses you'll encounter exude Souls-like stances that it's fun to tinker with, and the hand-drawn art turns me into a hand-spun Japanese sucker. There's a multitude of things to compliment, but attachment to any characters feels dismal at best. I also prefer the standard navigational platforming mechanics over the staff-heavy catapult system this one adopts. For the highs and lows, I'm sitting at a 7 out of 10, but I still adamantly recommend it for the ones who might enjoy an aerial ballet as opposed to a double jump gapfest. For immediate playability, this one is my favorite on the list today. On January 30th of 2024, a small French developer and publisher named Blobfish released a top-down arena shooter roguelite that I think Rambo himself could get behind. It must be the male brain that attracts me to the faint likeness of popcorn popping noises as I spoliate the hordes of aliens that think they can have a piece of my spoiled potato. I think any male could be swayed to its explosive presence and unique builds that make for optimal ET desecration. There'll be no phoning home for these poor unfortunate bastards. So let's see why I'm so entranced and willing to sit down and play for hours on end. Brotato, where you can call a friend over as a lifeline like some damned Who Wants to Be a Millionaire perk, and both sit down and bask in the seizure-inducing explosive-ridden glow of instant gratification. What makes a game like this so addictive that we'll give up quality time with our missus or give up custody of our children just to have a game night with the boys? Besides the wanton violence, we have a system here that makes you think independently how you can buff out your botanic vegetable to basically make a wall around yourself that none may enter. It becomes like a recipe to perfect, and once you start to understand how your spud needs to be seasoned, it's almost impossible to put him down. There are few games in this world of the thousands that you can play with a masculine counterpart and bond so easily with. Not to say the ladies can't enjoy some potato-on-potato action, but let's be honest, they don't really need the carbs. I'm giving this an 8.5 out of 10, and a shout out to the bros I play it with. Have you ever wanted to take up stakes and start your own religion? Might as well, it's tax-free, and that holds true even with cults. On August 11th of 2022, the world was a better place because developers Massive Monster and one of my personal faves, Devolver, got to publishing an instinctively addictive game that mixes cuddly with controversial. I've never played a game like it. The humor, the action, the grinding, and the roguelike elements were an instant like for me. The game really makes you strive to keep your followers happy and gives off black and white vibes from earlier PC days. The goal is to expose the false prophets and become the one true cult. Now, let's get this punch party started. Instead of a flying spaghetti monster, we have an adorable little lamb with streaks of violence and malevolence for anyone who attempts to poison his flock. There'll be no independent thought allowed, and if you choose that road, it's pushing up daisies for you. I loved having that power, but don't worry, I reward well for obedience also, and I only hold sermons on Sunday, unlike other cults I know of. I love the innocence of the cartoonesque art contrasted with the dark and uneasy themes. The sheer variety of busywork, along with the treks to slay the gods, and other fun additions like minigames or grinding to upgrade stats, make this game overflow with options. There's a lot to pay attention to, but hey, culting isn't easy. The kicker is that all of this comes together so cohesively, and dang near every part is overtly entertaining. It's an undertaking of a title that is so unique and fresh, especially if you're unscathed by boundaries being crossed. I must admit, I drank the Kool-Aid, and I ascended to a higher place. 8.5 out of 10. And that brings our second inning to a close, but don't you worry your little heads because I have plenty left to cover this year in my growing PS5 collection of titles. I'm running from base to base with my haste potion in hopes that I can give you a home run list of suggestions, so tune in again for the next installment of 5 titles to alleviate the everyday stresses of game collection choices and stay out of the dugouts. Cheers!